Let me ask you something. Have you ever followed all the right advice and still felt exhausted, still felt a little lost, or just still waiting for life to feel good? Well, maybe it's not you. Maybe it's the advice. So today we're skipping all the trending tips and diving into the unpopular ones. No fuss, no filters, just truth. So pour yourself a hot coffee, a strong one obviously, and let's talk about some unpopular things that just might change everything. You know, when I was younger, I used to believe that a good life looked a certain way. Busy, impressive, full of accomplishments, and full of noise. And really that was the product of the 80s and 90s when I was growing up. And for a while, all through my 30s, I chased that. Like many of us do, we try to climb the ladder, be energetic, be interesting, but it all came at a cost. And then one day, somewhere between watering my garden and pretending that I loved attending networking events, I realized that all the things that made me feel whole weren't popular. So today we're going to walk through some unpopular truths. No flashy tips, no slogans to slap on the side of a tote bag, just grounded, life-changing shifts that just might set you free. So let's get started. The first one is letting people be wrong about you. Now this one took me decades to learn, and I'll admittedly still forget it sometimes. But you are allowed to let people misunderstand you. You don't have to chase down every whisper or correct every assumption or clear your name like you're in some kind of courtroom drama. Some people mistakenly might think you're cold because you skipped the party, or they might think you're dramatic because you cried in the supermarket. Let them think what they like, because you don't need to control the narrative, you need to control your peace. I remember a lady that went to the gym I used to go to, and a couple of the other women that were there told me that she was unfriendly because she wouldn't chit-chat in the changing room. But I got to know her, and she was in her 50s, she was tired, and she was sweaty. That's it. But her silence became a story. What was interesting is that lady never defended herself. She just let it go. And months later, I ran into her at a farmer's market, and I said to her, "You know, you're actually a very warm, lovely woman." And she just smiled at me and said, "I always was." And the wonderful lesson I learned from her was that the energy you spend trying to fix other people's perception of you is wasted, because it steals energy away from your real life. And real life needs your full attention. The next thing is learning to embrace boredom. What I've noticed in North America in particular is that boredom has become the enemy of modern life. I feel like we're chasing constant stimulation. Podcasts, multitasking, scrolling, you name it, because the stillness feels like some kind of threat. But here's the unpopular opinion, and that is that boredom is the perfect space for creativity and insight, clarity, and self-awareness. See, because the thing is, when you're bored, something extraordinary happens. Your brain starts thinking. It starts wondering. It starts creating all kinds of connections that can only come out when things are still. I remember reading in a book somewhere, and I can't remember which one it was, but the writer had said that ideas are like shy animals. They don't show up when there's noise. They come when it's quiet, or when you're walking without your phone, or folding laundry, or when you're just staring out the window. And I have to say, I've had great results when I've put this idea into practice, particularly if I have some sort of problem to solve. I'll go out for a walk with no music, no phone, just walking in silence, looking at my surroundings, and I always come back with some clarity, a solution, or a new idea. Being bored is often when you can get some of your best insights and where inner wisdom can come out. That emptiness isn't a void, it's spacious, it's a canvas. And in that space, something wonderful can arise from it. The next unpopular thing is not having an opinion on everything. Now here's a spicy one. I feel like we're living in a world right now where everyone has to have a take on everything. On politics, on parenting, on wellness, on pop culture, or whatever Gwyneth Paltrow decides to eat. But here's something crazy. We don't have to have an opinion on everything. Not every headline needs our outrage. Not every debate needs our perspective. We can simply say, I don't know enough to comment on that. Or brace yourself, I don't really care about that. We're allowed to conserve our emotional bandwidth, and we don't have to be the town crier of our social circle. I think there's something wise in saying, that's not mine to carry. And why this works is it allows you to reclaim your peace and your mental health, and you give yourself permission to live your life and not everyone else's. Now we're going to talk about doing the thing before you feel ready. Now this requires a shot of courage, because I feel like we all wait for the time when we feel ready to do something. But the truth of the matter is that most of us never actually feel ready. I feel like some of the boldest things that I've done in my life, I've done half ready, half nauseous, and completely unsure. When I was a lot younger, I agreed to do a cooking class, and I have no formal training. I'm just a home cook, and I just love garlic and good stories. And that whole first hour, my hands were shaking, my palms were sweating, but by the end of it, it was smooth sailing. And that was a long time ago for me, but one of the things I learned from that is that you don't grow by waiting. You grow by moving, even if it's messy. One of the things I've discovered is that life seems to reward action, not perfection. And the feeling of readiness is something that you become, not something that you wait for. Also, we have accepting the fact that you're not for everyone. Trying to be universally liked is a full-time job with terrible benefits. But one of the most liberating things you can do is accept this unpopular truth, that you are not for everyone. And you're not supposed to be. See, the thing is you can be kind, generous, funny. You can show up fully with the best of intentions, wanting the best for everyone, but you'll still rub someone the wrong way. Look at it this way. If you think about who your favorite writer is, or your favorite artist, or favorite musician, someone else hates them, and it doesn't make them any less brilliant. The really great thing is that when you stop trying to be everyone's cup of tea, you'll learn to become your own, and you'll start attracting people who love you just as you are. The next one is resting before you're exhausted. Now, this is one I think many of us have had to learn the hard way, myself included. This is so simple, yet almost taboo, but you don't have to earn your rest. You don't have to wait until you're sick, crying, or twitching from your third espresso. Take a nap when you're just starting to feel sluggish. Cancel plans before the burnout hits, and walk away from the to-do list before it bites you. It's much better to rest in wisdom than when you're in a crisis. And why this works is because rest isn't laziness, it's actually strategy. It keeps you whole, and it reminds you that your worth isn't tied to your productivity. Now, this is something that my Italian mother recognizes intuitively, because she takes a 30-minute rest break every single day, no matter what. Because resting isn't weakness, and your body isn't a machine. So rest before the burnout. The last unpopular thing is choosing a simple life on purpose. One of the wildest things that you can do in a world that values hustle is to choose simplicity. Not because you can't do more, but because you don't want to. I had the opportunity once to take on a bigger job. Way more money, more prestige, and more stress. And I turned it down, not because I wasn't qualified, but because I knew I'd rather have time to make soup on Sundays. And isn't that the point? A rich life isn't the most impressive one. Sometimes it's slow mornings, fresh sheets, phone calls with friends, and long walks after dinner. And this is something many of us have learned the hard way, that peace isn't a side effect, it's a decision that we make. And living a simple life, especially when it's intentionally chosen, it is one of the most beautiful things there is. So I'm hoping that some of the unpopular things that we talked about today will serve in bringing you back to yourself and your values and your peace and your joy. We don't want louder lives, we want deeper ones. And I think every step that we can take to honor our soul is a step towards grace and beauty. I want to thank you so much for choosing to spend a bit of your day with me. Many blessings to you and your families. Take care, and we'll catch you in the next one.